Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another live session. Thank you so much for being here. Sincerely appreciate it. As many of you know, last year I had somebody supporting the channel. So as you come on to this stream, please let me know that you can see me, you can hear me. It always gives us people who are going live the warm and fuzzies. Let me know where you're coming from. What part of the world are you joining the chat or this live session from? And again, thank you so much for being here. I'm very, very excited. We're going to kick off and just focus in on a few really, really quick items. And then after those quick items, as people start to hop on the stream, we're going to dive right into the questions. And as always, my goal is to get to and answer every single question that we have today. And so just as a quick kickoff, just want to remind everybody, if you like what we're doing, please smash that like button if you've never subscribed to the channel. Obviously, we love subscribers. It's a great way to just kind of grow and build a platform and build a presence. I am and continue and will continue to pitch our new course that's coming out. And if you've watched any of the other live streams, you'll notice that I've pushed the date back a couple times. So we have a new course coming out 3/1. It started as 2/1, then 2/15, but now our new paid course will be coming out 3/1, and I feel pretty confident that we can stick to that date. Anybody will tell you when you build content, sometimes there are a number of things you didn't think about when you release those first dates. And honestly, I'm just no different. There were a few things that I kind of missed in the process. And so just wanted to kind of highlight that, but I'll pitch to that course a few times. We've put a ton of energy and effort into building it. And so we're really, really excited to bring that to you. And it will be in a little bit more than a month that we'll release that course. And then once we release that course, we'll start offering coaching packages. And those coaching packages, they'll include the course with a few sessions. It's going to be 3 sessions in the course. And then in March, at some point, once I can get organized to get it all together, we're going to start doing group coaching, so that we can hit a larger audience and bring more value to more people. Now, the focus area for today, we generally just do a Q&A. I think everybody knows. But if you want to put a little bit of emphasis and focus into those RRK interviews, there is some confusion. Just remember, if you are going into Google for an RRK interview, you really want to spend a lot of time in the job description, a lot of time talking with the recruiter, and just really focus in on what you know, what you're good at. That will yield success in those types of interviews. Okay, I think that's all the agenda items I have. If you've ever been here before, again, we're a positive platform, so it's not only questions. You can bring up your questions, but also any data, any input. If you've had some great success, please feel free to share that success with us. And we will dive right in. Lastly, I get a little bit behind on the questions, so usually once we get started, I'm rolling about 20 minutes behind typically. Stay patient. I will go through every single question. And if somehow I miss your question, please come in and let me know I missed it. Okay, let's dive right in. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, how do you negotiate with AWS for an inside sales role when the recruiter says the package that they've offered is final? You don't see a significant increase in the fixed amount, and more on the variable side, they've offered you 5 RSUs and a signing amount. Well, 5 RSUs, you might want to come back. Like 5 RSUs would be way too low for an L5. Remember, anytime we get an offer at any company and they say best and final, or this is our final offer, with our negotiation clients, what we're finding is about 50% of the time, we're actually able to get more. So it's really about saying, hey, I heard you said final, and I want to really respect that. And I think we're really close. If you can just push a little bit more here, I'd be willing to accept the offer. So when they come in, and this is a really, really critical data point, when they come in and they say best and final, or they say final offer, you have to go and counter on just one item. Because if we're bringing massive complexity on this final counter, this final offer, when it's a final offer, you're going to run into challenges, because we want to keep it very, very simplistic at the end. So just ask for more equity, ask for more base. If it's in the case of AWS, maybe we're trying to bolster that year 1 and year 2 sign-on bonuses, but focus in on one item. Good luck, and come back and let us know if you were able to negotiate more. But 5 RSUs, As a total grant, obviously, there's no way they'd offer you just that. That would be way too low, but maybe they just added 5 RSUs. Maybe you can come back and tell us more. Okay, you're welcome. You had a follow-up call with your recruiter and gave you some open-ended questions to solve. And at the end, he gave me feedback that you were unable. So you had a follow-up call with the recruiter, and he said, okay, you were unable to structure your answers, and you wouldn't be moving to the next stage until you practice those. He suggested that I practice with people and get back to him whenever I'm ready. What do I do now? Do I need to book a coaching session with you? Okay, so there, one of the reasons why I put out all this free content is I never want to feel like anybody should ever force you to get coaching, right? Like that's got to be a choice. It is absolutely an investment of your time, and it's a financial investment. So it's something I want you to think through. But the reality is that we need to practice. So if you're not practicing with me or another professional, just make sure that you are really, really pushing on your friends, your family, colleagues that you trust to keep it confidential, that you really just speak it out loud. And I think that's what your recruiter is really speaking towards, is just doing this great practice. Now, in terms of structuring your answers on the open-ended side, welcome to the entire world. Like, this is a really difficult thing. And that's why I spend so much time coaching on these open-ended questions. And so we've talked a lot about this, and I'll go really high level. CFAS. If you are not following the CFAS methodology, you are not going to have the right structure and organization. So we clarify. Then we present a high level framework. Then we bring in some very specific and solid assumptions that are role specific. Then we pick one framework concept and really tie it to those specific assumptions and solve wearing the hat of the role. Follow it in that order. Clarify, framework, assumption, solution. Clarify, framework, assumption, solution. Many of my clients try and break that order, and that order is that order for a reason. So I would just say really, really focus in on creating answers with that order and wearing the hat of the role, and those will be 2 critical data points for your success. Let us know if you have other questions. Okay, greetings from London. Everybody who comes in from London knows absolutely, one of my top 5 favorite cities in the world. I love London. Okay, share the compensation package based bonus equity for a program manager, L5 in Greater London, global server ops. Okay, so yeah, when we talk about these types of offers, you're probably going to want to be somewhere in like the low to kind of low mid ones in terms of pounds. And so, that base salary should be coming in right around 100. Obviously, the target bonus is 15%, so that puts us at 115. And then the equity comes through in USD. I always want you to just translate everything into pounds just for ease. But, if we could bring that into the low 100s in terms of equity, that would kind of get you into that 150-ish range in year 1. Now, your 4-year average is going to be a little lower, but if you can come in around 150 in pounds, maybe 140 to 145 in pounds total, that would be a good starting point, and then you can build from there. Now, remember, when you anchor, you're going to go higher. Go more towards a high ones, maybe very, very high ones for your anchor. Think of a 4-year average in the ones in terms of pounds in the 190s, and then they'll bring you down. But definitely anchor high. Good luck. Changing careers from consulting to a non-tech program manager role. Okay, very, very common. Do you need to show certification, Scrum, program management? No, you don't. It depends on the organization, but most companies, they don't really care about, I think there's too much emphasis on education and certifications. Now, all of that helps. Having a great educational background just sets a foundation. Having all this coursework and understanding project or program management fundamentals, understanding things like Scrum, it's great. But in reality, if you're getting into the interviews, then you really want to focus just on your interview skills, and then any additional knowledge that you can gain to up your skills is going to be super, super helpful. Hi from Slovakia. Awesome. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Been contacted by Google. They offered me a position of an AM in the Google Shopping Solutions team. You've done 2 interviews, RRK and leadership. Okay. Waiting for feedback on the RRK. Does the recruiter have power of opinion when choosing the candidate? Okay. You have a very good relationship with the recruiter, and he sees that I have a lot of interest. Thank you for the great help. Been watching all your videos. Okay, so the recruiter has a little bit of influence, right? And part of that is, do we come in for role specific, or are we coming in for a team match? But let's say my hiring manager is Jane, and Jane is kind of looking at the feedback, and she's like, I don't know about Alexandra. Like, it looked good, but I'm not sure. As the recruiter, I could come in and say, look, really, when we dig into this feedback, it does look pretty good. And if you compare this candidate against the other candidates that we've seen recently, I think it really makes sense to move them on to the next step of the process, to write a statement of support. If the recruiter fosters and creates a really good relationship with the hiring manager, they should have some leverage to push. Ultimately, they can only push if that data and those details are really, really strong. So just something to think about. But I hope that helps. They do have some influence. It's not a ton, but some. And with my hiring managers, over time, the longer I worked with them, the more I built that relationship and the more they trusted my opinion. Okay, you're the one who came in, had a lot of questions. Okay, I think I vaguely remember that. Yeah, okay, you got the offer. Amazing. Thank you so much for coming back. We love it when people come back and tell us the great news. So awesome to hear it. I hope you were able to negotiate and get what you wanted. And that's what we're here to do, to help you drive up that offer. So congrats, amazing news. Okay, thank you for everything. Okay, you are team matched and the recruiter told you you passed HC last Thursday. She'd get back to you in a day or 2 with the offer. Still have not heard back for 4 days. Okay, is this normal at this phase, and what is the typical turnaround for the comp team to generate an offer? Additionally, what is the turnaround time when negotiating an offer for a comp team to respond each time? Okay, so word on the streets is that Google is pretty behind on their offers right now. Typical turnaround is, they're going to tell you it's 48, 72 hours, but typical turnaround time, it's about 24 hours or less. Sometimes they can turn it around really quickly. We are seeing a little bit of a delay now. Your recruiter not communicating with you during this time is totally ridiculous. Like, I don't know why they would do that. So you need to follow up, check in, and then in each negotiating round, typically if comp's not too busy, it's usually happening within 24 hours. But again, from my clients, what I'm hearing is that they're backed up. I had one client whose recruiter told them they were 500 offers behind. Find that a little bit hard to believe, but that was the data that was coming internally. So just be patient, but absolutely at this point, if you're at the offer stage and not hearing back, that's just poor communication by your recruiter, especially if that communication was happening last week and we're already hitting Wednesday and you haven't heard back. I would just follow up. Obviously, with all these follow-ups, the more gracious and kind we are, the better it's going to go. But just keep pushing forward and keep checking in with us. Let us know how it's going. Yes, congrats. We're psyched. And again, one of the things that we love is it's just great to see what's possible, right? And I think sometimes these interviews, whether it's Google or any of these big tech companies, or any interviews in general, like, we get really anxious and overwhelmed, and it's just about, like, some of this is coming into these lives and seeing the mindset and knowing that it is possible, and we're like a very, very small part of the journey. You're going to have to put in the work, and that's like the key to life, right? And I get into these kind of like life items when we go on these lives, but the reality is that the work we put in behind the scenes is usually what yields success. So yeah, thank you so much. And anybody else who comes in and obviously got an offer, like, please come in and let us know. Okay. I'm coming from a new location today, so I'm trying to get the angle right and not kill my neck here. So if I keep adjusting, I am dog sitting right now and in a new location. Okay, thank you for helping me make it to HC. Still waiting patiently. High level question. Everyone talks about dollars. Do people push on PTO with Google? They do not. That is non-negotiable. You will never be able to negotiate that. Remember, they're a huge organization, and that's just something that they're not going to be flexible on ever. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't get positive benefits from working with a good hiring manager who's flexible on maybe even more remote work as you go back, or flexible on hours, or maybe you always have to pick your child up from daycare. Like it's a flexible environment, but PTO is the only thing that's negotiable is potentially location, potentially work from home. Again, that's pretty common today's landscape. And then comp. And that's it. That's it. You like benefits and PTO and all that stuff. I mean, they're like a huge global organization. They do not negotiate on those items. Great question. RRK is role-related knowledge. And while the role-related knowledge is a Google interview, and while they won't always prompt and say, hey, we're going to do an RRK interview, every single role will have at least one interview that's more role specific, more catered to role. Even though it might feel generic, they're really looking for answers that are very crafted and catered towards how you're going to have success in that role. And remember, of course, I always prompt to this. Always wear the hat of the role. Everything you solve, everything you do, just always be thinking about the position. You will have much better success. And where this really shows up is on the open-ended side. Hi, Jeff. Been trying to get back on the PI site. You've been locked out and not received an email when I reset my password. Who can I talk to? So I probably should have told everybody this at the beginning of the session, like the app is done. And I was, I don't want to go on a long tirade here because everybody knows I can get excited, but the app is no longer in existence. We built it for a year, and I know it had some really cool bells and whistles with the question bank and your ability to record yourself and a lot of free resources. But unfortunately, I needed to move on from the app, and Eirik, and everybody knows Eirik, who was on this platform, was amazing. He and I built it with another software engineer. We built a homegrown app, but I couldn't maintain it when Eirik left and decided to do his own thing. And by the way, that was all really positive. I think anybody who interacted with Eirik knows how smart he is. He will be on the cover of Fortune magazine. He's going to crush the world, of course. But when we split from a business perspective, I couldn't keep the app up and running. And I apologize for that. So here's the plan. The plan is I'm going to rebuild the question bank. I moved platforms over to Kajabi so that we could launch some courses. We're going to launch a lot of courses this year. But my goal, obviously, with all the YouTube content and the lives and everything I do on LinkedIn and the website is to give you guys as much free content as I can. It's just going to take a little bit of time to rebuild some of those free resources. So I'm just going to ask for tremendous patience, but I have the questions. So I just need to figure out the system to get the questions back up and running, and we'll get some cool things going really soon. But as of today, we're at the 26th of January and the app no longer exists. So if you have any questions, please hit us up on the chat feature on our website, and if we can help with anything, we will. Yes, RRK is role-related knowledge. Thank you. This Friday, the team will meet to decide who moves forward HC. Seems like there will be 2 to 3 positions total. Is there a window between this decision and the HC meeting? Can I expect by now to receive a final feedback by the 2nd week of February? Yeah, it's been a long process for you. I can't say when it will all be done. I can't control that piece, so just keep checking in. The fact that they've kept you in the process for this long is obviously a good sign. They obviously like what you're doing. So that's good news, but yeah, you just got to stick with it. But I can never guarantee or control any of these things that they're doing. So, and that's kind of what we focused a little bit of our conversation on last week, is this control item. And it's hard because I don't want it to sound negative, like, hey, I can't control things, but the reality is I can't, and we can't either. So the thing we can control is staying in touch with our recruiters, our point of contacts, and making sure that we're just doing it in a nice and kind manner. and making sure we drive the process as much as we possibly can. Good luck. And in general, any hard percentage difference from premium market like San Fran to lower like Boulder? It's a great question. So the Boulder, this is kind of like crazy. There is a big difference. It's not like crazy. It's probably 12 to 15% less in Boulder, but I don't think that they comp. There's a few markets that I think are undercompensated, and Boulder is definitely one of those markets. The average home price in Boulder is like 1.1 million, 1.2 million. I mean, the cost of living is through the roof. It's not Denver. Boulder is so much more expensive than Denver. And I think that they just don't comp Boulder appropriately. So there's absolutely a percentage down. And I would say in that 12 to 15% differential. Okay. For analytics lead, strategy, and ops, what are the SQL case study interviews like? I was told your HAM would be testing SQL and product feature case study. Yeah, so when you get into these kind of case studies, of course, for some of these roles, they are going to want you to get heavy duty into the analysis side. And your ability to problem solve by using and breaking down large data sets in SQL is going to be critical. So just remember to bring that SQL lens in. They might not actually prompt towards that, but you might want to push and drive your answers. I have never used SQL before, so it's not an area of expertise for me, but definitely make sure that you're pushing back towards that analytical piece. It's going to be absolutely critical for your success. In regards to what the case study is, just remember the biggest thing with case studies is to really understand your audience, right? And so is your audience technical, business side, or both? And finding that nice middle ground, that nice balance is so critical. Don't always focus in on an audience that's going to really understand you getting all the way into the weeds. Kind of talk at a high level, talk like you would be talking to an external client. Good luck. Let me know if you have any other questions. I know that was super high level. How do you negotiate and make an impression in the job opportunity that was a bit vague? What they said to me is, we want a friendly person. Okay. So we'll negotiate. Let's save the negotiating for later. Save the negotiating for when they want to hire you. Now, making an impression, first impressions are critical. And this is actually a portion of the course that I'm building. Well, it's built, but in that course, we actually spend some time on first impressions and building these impressions, because there is so much data and science behind the power of like a great first impression. Build a great first impression or build great impressions. And even if you don't do things perfectly, they'll actually like you more. This is pretty vague. They want a friendly person. Okay, so what they're really saying is they want a friendly person who has the skills to do the job. So just come in and really say thank you a lot, be gracious and kind in your answers. Sometimes one of the biggest things that I look for in answers is, and I was fortunate enough to have this opportunity, and I'm really grateful for this, or it was really because of a team effort that we achieved X or Y or Z. That will really make you show up as a friendly person and make you more likable in the process. I hope that helps. What they've said to you is it's pretty vague. So if you have any other questions, let me know. Okay. 2022 comp expectations, L5, non-tech, PGM, Bay Area. Does the volatile market impact a total comp offer? For example, tech stocks are slumping with Google offer lower equity as a result. Well, the equity number is actually, it's not a number of shares for Google. It's just a cash amount. So with that cash amount, don't really worry about the volatility of the market. It's not going to impact it that much. L5, non-tech, Bay Area, our goal is to get up over 300 in year one with a 4-year average of around 270 to 280-ish is your 4-year average. But absolutely year one with a 33% stock, maybe a sign-on, you're definitely going to be up over 300. And then the goal is to never drop below that number with refreshers, with a promo, with good merits, etc. So 270 to 280, and you'll see kind of something similar if you look at levels.fyi. In what it consists, GCA. Oh, what is the GCA interview and how to pass it? GCA is general cognitive ability, and there are two ways to pass it. Follow the CFAS method, clarify, framework, assumption, solution, and then secondarily, wear the hat of the role. And I cannot emphasize this enough. We need to stop trying to solve these answers just generically. Solve like you're a program manager for YouTube. Solve like you're a customer engineer focused in on infrastructure for GCP. Like really focus in on the role, and that will help you. And then the last thing, in these solutions, we're trying to make these solutions like slightly more difficult than they need to be. We need to rely on past experience, but scrap out the specificity. What do I mean? I mean, like, if we're interviewing for a program manager of YouTube, we probably have some good program management skills. Whatever the question is, we're going to utilize those skills that we've utilized with past things that we've done in our current role. So we can actually talk through something and we could say, let's assume, but the thing we're assuming we've actually done before. So just make sure that you really wear the hat of the role and that you really think to your past, but scrap out the specificity. Sometimes when people get to the solutions, they're like, and we did this recently in my company, but that's not the point. The point of these GCA questions is for you to problem solve. Now remember, you could get something random. Most common random question that we've covered before is open a pastry shop. So if you are just trying to straight up open a pastry shop, it's not going to work. Now, if you are opening a pastry shop, let's go back to a program manager of YouTube. We are going to try and bolster sales and really bring in more business through the YouTube platform and utilizing different resources, different people like we would as a program manager. I know that was kind of a tangent, but I hope that helps. Is it okay to revise your resume after a couple of interviews and send it over to the recruiter again? Absolutely okay. You can say, hey, I updated my resume and here are some new items. And if you want to share this with future interviewers, I'd appreciate it. Absolutely. Good question. Interviewed for an L4 suite and you were told by your recruiter you got mixed reviews. So he's going to send you to HC for L4 and L3. Good or bad sign, and should I expect L3? Yeah, I would expect L3. I hope that aligns with your comp expectations. I mean, L3 suites still get paid crazy money. But I would just expect in L3, remember, the jump from L3 to L4 suite, it's like, that can be laser fast. You know, you can absolutely get that promo in a year. So sometimes people get really like bummed about level and you know, again, I want to just take a step back and not take this with any harshness, but level is ego. We just really care about comp. Comp is the only thing that's important, and just know if you come in and crush it, you will do great. You will get promoted quickly. You will make the money you deserve. Hope that helps. You know, 1 hour from going in. Okay, Jim, we're 1 hour from going in. So your note is at 10:11. So if you're going in at 11 or 11:15, get off the live. Stop watching this. Stop prepping. We're all here. Good luck. Like we're sending you positive energy, positive vibes. Shut down. Go sit on the couch, sit in a chair, go in your backyard if you have a yard, and just unwind. Deep breaths. Like you have to clear your mind. Prepping right up until the interview, all the science and data actually says that that's a bad thing. It doesn't support it. Our brain has limited capacity. So right now, if we're a half an hour out, 45 minutes out, shut down. Clear your brain out and then go into your interview or interviews clear-minded. Good luck. Come back and let us know how it went. You want to prepare for an RRK interview while giving the DevOps engineer interview. How does Google hire a DevOps engineer without coding experience? I've seen most of the Google jobs are for SRE, which requires coding experience. Yeah, so I don't know exactly. You would have to talk to your recruiter about like what they're looking for in the DevOps role and whether you have to have coding expertise or not. I'm not really sure what's going to be required there, but I don't know. I feel like DevOps may have some coding or design. So yeah, unfortunately, I would just ask you to go back to your recruiter because I'm not really sure what the RRK is going to have, and that's just my recommendation in general. Um, while I know some things, I don't know everything, and we really want to rely and push on our recruiter to know. Now, you may not be in the process yet, but I just always default to the person who knows the role the best. Sorry, I know that's probably not super helpful. Okay, we're half an hour in, and as anticipated, I'm always about 20 minutes behind at this point, so please hang out with me. I will get to your questions ASAP. Just a quick prompt. We're releasing a paid course on 3/1. Yes, that's our new date, 3/1. And we're going to be coming out with all sorts of courses this year. We're going to be rebuilding the free resources on the website. We're going to be offering coaching packages, group coaching. All of it takes time to develop, but I'm really excited. I think we can cast a wider net and really have a larger impact on a much bigger group of people. Obviously, YouTube's a great platform for that, but we're going to keep prompting on that. And if you like what we're doing in this video right now, smash that like button. And obviously, if you've never subscribed, subscribers are great. We love them. Thanks. Okay. What if we don't have sufficient RRK knowledge? Will that reflect badly? But on the plus side, we're eager to learn and be adaptable. Okay, so I love this balance, right? So I actually like hiring people who don't have 100% of the skills, but they have a lot of the skills, because I actually do want you to learn and grow in the role. I think you'll be less engaged if you come into the role and you know absolutely everything. It's like, it's not that great, because people who have to learn and push themselves usually do a little bit better. Yeah, it's not about having all the skills. It's about highlighting your strengths, your skills, and bringing those into the interview. So again, you're going to align the job description with your strengths. And then when you get to the open-ended questions, you're really going to take those strengths and really figure out what you can do to have success in the role. Hope that helps. Okay. Interviewed with Google for an L5 role. And let's see, is there anything else? Okay, sorry. Yeah, the rest of the item went out, and so the fire. Okay, yeah, I'm not sure what's happening there. Come back to me, please. Okay, I don't know what that is. I got so much help for you for the last 3 interviews. You're having your 4th interview for a non-tech program manager role next week. Awesome. And the recruiter told me that it'd be about program management fundamentals. What would you recommend for preparing for this interview, and how likely is it that I get an offer? Okay, so likelihood of offer, I can't tell you. I have absolutely no idea. Here's what I can tell you. For these program management fundamentals, think about the like really common questions they're going to ask you. Some sort of scheduling challenge. It's going to be really like scheduling challenge, budgetary challenge. You have to communicate a major project change. You have not enough resources. All these kind of program management challenges that you face, and then obviously, how do you get stakeholder engagement, shared vision, and how do you lead without authority and navigate massive amounts of ambiguity? That is the role of a program manager. I know that's a lot, but I hope it helps. First interview tomorrow, RRK, account strategist for SMBs. Watched all your videos. Any more specific advice? No. No, on the account strategist, I guess the last minute prep would be continue to work on those behavioral answers, right? And then as you think about the open-ended answers, pre-plan a couple of assumptions. A client who's facing X, Y, or Z challenge, and then anything you can do to up your ads knowledge between today and tomorrow would be great. You don't have to be an ads expert, but having a little bit of knowledge helps. Okay, thank you for all the info that you've generously poured into these amazing videos, resources. You signed your offer. with Google this week, Franklin, amazing news. Thank you so much for showing up and letting us know. We had a couple of these today, so I think our record is about 10, and the audiences are, of varying size, but Franklin, amazing news. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate it when people come back and let us know that they got the offer, because again, it's just the art of possible. It just shows that if you put in the time and work and dedication, I obviously ask a lot from people. I think if you really put in the time and effort, the ROI is so unbelievable. There are so few things in life where the ROI has such a big return. Think about it. Let's say we spent 40 hours prepping for our interview. Let's say we spent 80 hours. Most of these jobs, especially these big tech companies, we get paid that back so quickly. And so thanks, Franklin. Congrats. Mainframe engineer with 5 years of experience. What are the skills needed to upskill? ND to apply at Google. I'm not sure what, again, everybody knows I struggle with the abbreviations. My brain doesn't have great connectivity to abbreviations for some weird reason. So I'm not sure what that means. But the specific skills, I mean, that's a pretty broad question. I would just say, like, start to up your knowledge in the areas that you know are critical for success. So if you're looking at job descriptions, like, is there a theme of a specific skill or skills that you're missing? And if there is, just go learn that knowledge. And then, of course, the knowledge is important, but your interview skill set is just as important. So just make sure that you are absolutely crushing it in terms of prepping your behavioral answers, getting those great examples down, and then just kind of understanding the methodology and structure behind open-ended questions. I know that's super high level. What do they mean by a cross-functional interviewer? Not much additional information provided. Sorry for the multiple questions. That's what we're here to do. We're here to answer questions, so no apologies necessary. Cross-functional means not on the direct team, but probably on a collaborative team, right? Probably a team that you would be interacting with at least a little bit, maybe on a weekly basis, maybe on a monthly or quarterly basis. So it's somebody pretty close to the role. They get the role enough and understand the skills that are needed, but they're not on the direct team. Thanks a lot for your contribution. You had 3 interviews and you were late for the last one because I thought it was according to Dublin time. Yeah, I mean, obviously we never want to be late for interviews. And some interviewers are just like really rigid about this. They get really upset and you can't win them over. And remember, that's a first impression item. So if their first impression of you is that you're late, yeah, it can be bad, but we can't control that now. So hopefully you just apologize, let them know the error on your end and that you owned it. And then we're just gonna have to wait and see. Let us know. Latinx, what's available to help during the interview process? So there always, for everybody, should be some resources to help get you connected with current Googlers. If you want to connect with like or similar current Googlers, see if you can get that reach out through your recruiter. Again, I'm thinking about Google specifically, but a lot of these big tech companies will have resources for you to talk to people in the organization to see if it's a good fit. And then just like anybody else, I want you to just crush it, right? Just crush the interview prep. I will push that time and time again. But the more you prep for the interviews, the better you'll do. As a fresher going in for an apprentice interview, I don't really have any work experiences I can relate to in terms of conflict, for instance. How can I handle this? So as a fresher, you just want to focus in on the school stuff, right? So any school projects, any group projects, this is where you can push a little bit more towards potentially something that's even outside of school, like a volunteer experience as well. I wouldn't recommend that for anybody who had experience because I'm really work focused and work fixated. But chances are, if it's not like a major conflict, you probably had a time where you just didn't see eye to eye with somebody, and you could say, again, with this positive tone, I'm fortunate enough to not really have had a conflict in any of my projects or anything that I've worked on, but I have sometimes, or I've had a couple of occasions where I haven't seen eye to eye with somebody. Can I give you one of those examples? And then we bring in that example. We're always just trying to get close to the question. It doesn't have to be perfect. Also, is it really okay to bring in notes I've taken earlier into the interview? Interview is virtual. Okay. Here's our setup. Your notes with your pen right here, blank piece of paper, your cheat sheet right to the side. And so what that means is that they're not going to see down below. I don't want like a second monitor or notes up here or a third monitor, because then when we're looking at the notes, it's going to look like this, or it's going to look like this. It's going to be clear that we're looking away. But when we're looking here, we say, I'm going to take a minute to write that down, and then I'm going to take a minute to collect my thoughts. We look down. And so, and my computer's really high today because of my funky setup. So we're going to write the notes, and then we're going to just be looking down at our cheat sheet while we're writing down the question. But we absolutely don't want them to see the notes. We don't want to say, hey, is it okay if I use my notes? And remember, on your cheat sheet, very, very limited information. High level, some clarifying, go-to clarifying questions, a couple frameworks, and then the titles of your behavioral examples, just so we don't forget our behavioral examples in the interview. Okay, Core Eng Program Manager, L6 Sunnyvale. What would be a reasonable high anchor base GSU bonus split? Okay, so well, the bonus split is, it's not split, it's 20% per year. So we know that data point. You know, on a base, I'm trying to push the base up as high as I can. You know, high ones up to about 2, and then GSUs probably around that kind of 400 to 500. I mean, if we're anchoring, we're probably going to anchor around 500. You know, for an L6 program manager, you're trying to get that four-year average up around 330, 335, and then you're looking for year one to come in 360, 370, something like that. Hope that helps. All right. I want to prepare for an RRK for a DevOps engineer. I believe we covered this before. I don't know if you're the second person to come in, but I don't know. I don't know. You'd really have to, if the job description says coding, then coding. If it doesn't say coding, then I would say, yeah, focus more on the operational stuff. But I don't know for sure. Obviously, again, if the job description says coding as a minimum requirement, then you're going to need it. Do you know by chance what Google does for their employees who doesn't get picked in the H-1B lottery? Do they relocate them to an international location? You'll have to see what the latest is. I'm not sure what I'm not sure what they're currently doing. So again, that's a great question to ask your recruiter, because I'm not sure, and I'm not sure how big that lottery is. I know it's not as big as it used to be, unfortunately, which is really unfortunate, but yeah, just ask them. Yeah, I don't know the exact answer. Okay. Hi, Jeff. Begin interviewed for early career into your SWE role. You have about 2 years of experience. All the 5 on-sites went good. Can I ask for L4 instead of L3? No, I don't believe that they would hire you as a 4. 4 is usually going to require system design, and if they brought you in as a 3, they're probably just doing coding interviews and not system design. So I think it's unlikely. Remember, we can always ask for things, but we don't control level. We have, as candidates, we have 0% control on level. Want to prepare for a BSA on-site interview, on domain interview. Okay, so I have this, I think it's called, we'll put this in the resources. I think it's like Building Bridges or something. I found this really good other YouTube channel for business analysts, look that up. It's like, just type in business analyst interview. You're going to find a woman who has a really, really good channel. I watch some of her content. It's solid. Remember, for a BSA, right, like the biggest thing with BSAs that I think is totally missed is, yeah, you got to be really good on the analytical work, systems, being able to work with large data sets. But on the other side of the coin, analysts are actually people persons. That sounds weird. You have to be good with people as an analyst, right? Because so much of the information you need to data gather is by speaking to others and communicating with others. So don't forget about this strong collaborative lens. It's something that I really focus in on with my BSA clients, because just having the data component isn't going to be enough, and just having the people skills isn't going to be enough. You have to have that nice hybrid. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I spent 3 years as an analyst in my career. And so I get super excited about those roles. I absolutely love data. I'm one of those kind of people. Okay, from India, and you're coming in the very first round for a scaled abuse analyst YouTube. Been told that it will be role-based and GCA interview. Can you give me some advice? Yeah, so again, this is gonna go right back to what I just said. Now, you have to be good at the analytical work, and you have to be good at the people skills, and really focus in on doing both. And then remember, when you get a GCA question, how do we couple that analysis and people skills to solve, no matter how random the question? I interviewed with Google for an L5 PM role. Feedback: the RRK interview wanted specific experience in chip manufacturing, and everything else was perfect. Was rated excellent on all other rounds and didn't make it. Okay. So everything else was perfect. Okay, so again, I would maybe want you to come back and qualify perfect. Like, did you get feedback that you got a strong hire in all other cases? Now, if the other feedback was really good, you will have another chance. It sounds like you said PM. It sounds like maybe for chip manufacturing, maybe this is not a product, but a program manager. Let me know. But yeah, I think you're going to have other opportunities. Remember, that feedback sticks with you. It carries with you. So I know it's disappointing, and I'm sorry you didn't make it this time, but just remember, on the bigger picture, long term, if you crush the other interviews, you will have another opportunity. I can't see why Google Canada's pay is lower than the US, even with the cost of living being the same in the two cities. So it really should be a cost of living based model, but there are just some markets that pay less for technology. Let's go back to London. London is hands down one of the most expensive cities in the world because of the currency. The currency carries a lot of weight, and because just like mortgages, rent in London are very expensive. For tech, I would put San Francisco, New York, London, and I would say of those three, London's probably the most expensive. But London pays far less. That's what the market is bearing for tech. So that might just be the case. It's not an apples for apples, and especially as we get outside of the US, it's not always the case. Sorry to give you that news, but that's just kind of the way it is. Okay. Finished your RRK, but didn't hear back from them for almost 1 week until now. Follow up. 5 business days, we haven't heard back after an interview, we follow up. Should they have followed up with us? Absolutely, but we just got to take control. After passing HC, recruiter wanted to know comp expectations. I deflected because the less you say, the more they pay. But recently you suggested it's okay to anchor first. Current thoughts today. Thought a lot about this. And my new answer is, I don't care. Right, and not in a negative way, in a positive way. If they come in and they lowball you first, fine. If you come in and anchor first, fine. It actually doesn't really matter. Regardless of whether they come in first or we come in first, our anchor is going to be the same. We're not going to change that anchor. If they come in first, sometimes we have a little bit more data and it makes it a little bit easier for us. But sometimes there's some really strong power in anchoring first. But regardless of what happens, our anchor is still going to be crazy high. And that's the most important item. So I used to think it was better for them to come in first. Then I thought it was better for us to anchor first. And I think in reality, the more and more I think about it, from what we've seen from our negotiation clients, it doesn't really matter. We just need to make sure that that anchor is super, super high. Okay, being moved to HC, that's great news. Recruiter asked me to fill in a form, my comp expectations. You deflected and also deflected the follow-up phone call, and recruiter gave no numbers too. Okay. Asked for what level I'm being targeted for, and she said to not have that info until HC is done. She did push again for a number and said it was vital to have an expectation alignment so she can fight for me things to move fast. Would be ideal a number first, but anchor high in the scenario. TSS in Waterloo, Canada. What could be the ideal number total comp? Having over 5 years of experience for a role that you could assess me for. No, it's great. It's great. This is actually a great question. The recruiter cannot ask for your total comp expectations without you actually having an idea of the level. It's probably going to be an L4, would be my guess with 5 years of experience. I'd be surprised if it came in any higher than that. For Waterloo, you know, L4. Okay, I remember going L4. Sorry, let me go back. I don't think we got the role. Did we get the role? Come back and give me the role. But Waterloo, you know, it's going to pay decent. It's not going to be super, super high, but I don't want you to anchor yet. Say, until I know level, unfortunately, I've done my research. I've talked to current and former Googlers, but until I know level, I'm not going to give you numbers. And say that in the nicest way. Say, you know, until you confirm level, I understand it will be faster, the process, and I want to make this easy for you. I want to be your partner with you. I want you to be my advocate. But until I know level, I don't feel comfortable providing numbers. And don't provide numbers until we know level. There's a huge differential level to level. You know, oftentimes it's at least 15% different. So don't put yourself at a disadvantage. Now, if you want to just go anchor and anchor really high, Waterloo L4, come in over 200 a year. You know, definitely. But I would suggest you wait. Best TC for an NYC TPM role. Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to get in any of these L5 TPM roles is we're trying to get over 300 as our 4-year average and have year one be, you know, 350 plus. That's what I have seen. That's what we've gotten for our clients. So, you know, you want to drive up that base as much as possible, get the equity. You're going to have to get the equity well into the 3s to get there. So that's what I would push for. But if I was coming in, I would definitely be anchoring at a minimum in the high 3s as my 4-year average. Maybe like something like 390 to 395 is my 4-year average, and then let them bring you down to around 300 as a 4-year average. I wouldn't go into the 400s. Now, year one, year two, they're going to be above 400 if you anchor at 390, 395, even 385 as your 4-year average. Those first year numbers will go over 400, but as your 4-year average, don't go over 400. What is the typical turnaround time to hear from the interview before moving to the on-site phase? A Google interview was 2 weeks ago, and your recruiter hasn't gotten feedback from the interviewer yet. Great. So, you know, we've talked a little bit about this. I'll just quickly address this. If my interviewer didn't provide feedback for me in 1 week, and after 1 week, I'd reach out, and then after a couple more days, I'd reach out again, and then if they didn't do it, I'd instantly CC their manager. 2 weeks is absolutely unacceptable. There is no excuse for that. There are outliers, of course, but I would really put the fuel to the fire to get that interviewer to provide that feedback. So just stay in touch as much as you can. Going for HC for an L3 strategy and ops security role based in MTV. Total comp you could expect and what should you set your anchor at. Want to make sure it's realistic. Aiming for 200 to 250 in total comp. Yeah, up around 200, 250, no way. Now, again, remember, I work on 4-year averages just so we don't get skewed. Year one could be pretty good. Year one could be into the 215, 220 range. I think it's okay to set your 4-year average in the twos for sure, but your total comp on a yearly basis will not be 250. You interview for a specific team before going to HC. Do you think that will help your chances? What are the odds? Can I answer that question? Unfortunately, like I can't give you the odds. I don't know. Typically, if we cast a wide net with people passing HC, especially with a follow-up interview, it's 40%. So 40% chance. It's not necessarily better if you have a specific team. So just good luck. Let us know how it goes. But yeah, I can't ever give you the odds, unfortunately. Being interviewed for a chief of staff role at Google, the recruiter noted was an L7. Though pointed out during the interviews could be up-leveled to an L8. What are the elements you would suggest highlighting to be elevated to an L8? Hey, Session, good to see you again. It's been a while. So I don't want you to actually focus in on that too much. Here's why. I think sometimes when we start to focus too much on trying to differentiate our answers that are going to take us from a 6 to a 7 or a 5 to a 6, or in this case, a 7 to an 8, we're going to overthink it. The interview process is hard enough as it is. So just when you think about giving your answers, just answer the way you would normally answer and don't focus too much on the level. What I've seen for the chief roles and the head roles is that sometimes they can go from a 7 to an 8. It's not very common, but sometimes. And good luck. Yesterday, a recruiter told me your profile is currently in review with one of our managers. Already finished all the interviews since 3 weeks. Is this good or bad? What can you expect? I don't know, but it sounds like you're in the team match stage and that there's some interest in your profile. So this is good. It sounds like the interviews went well. Remember, if you're in the team match stage, remember excitement, enthusiasm. There's a reason why I stand up for these lives. It's so I have a little bit more energy in my voice to answer all these questions, and excitement and enthusiasm, and sometimes I'll low and then you got to pick it back up again, and I got to get re-engaged and re-excited. So just engagement, excitement, and tons of questions. Go in with more questions than you could ever possibly get answered. Got an offer letter for a cloud engineer on the 14th of this month. Your content, especially the star videos, helped me a lot in the Googling this interview. You're awesome. Thanks. Keep them coming. Thank you, Baking Bread, which is that's a great name. Congrats. Obviously now, third person of the live, and like I'm not trying to really track this. It's just with 3 I can remember. But yeah, it's amazing. The STAR method. Here's the crazy thing. Let's just talk about this for a second. Most of the data and information on the STAR method is really actually pretty poor. It says, all right, create your situation and task, give those actions and give the results. But they don't actually break down what to say in each section. And I went and I watched another person's YouTube video today. It's the person I like, their channel's growing really quickly. And they did an example using the STAR method. There was no specificity. Like, I didn't know where they worked. I didn't know who the client was. I didn't know what product they were working on. It was so generic. And so anybody who's watching this, when we get into that situation, you have to tell me your role in company and give me a little context. Get me connected. What is the major challenge you were focusing in on? And not with the client, with a sportswear retailer that sells mostly yoga pants, because I can picture that. Then tell me the timeline. You solved this in 1 month, in 2 months, in 3 months. Then when you get into the actions, instead of saying we met and I provided a presentation with a 2-page PowerPoint deck that highlighted trends in yoga pants sales during COVID. Give me the visuals. The visuals are missing from the STAR coaching. If you're not providing visuals, it's a critical point of failure. And I get super pumped up about this because when people bring visuals in and I can picture it, I always like their answer better. Baking Bread, congrats. As always, I go on a little tangent. As we hit the 1 hour mark, We're still about 20 minutes behind. You'll see, I'll start catching up pretty quickly. Thank you everybody for being here. 3-1 paid course will be released, and then we're gonna do group coaching. We're gonna offer coaching packages. It's gonna be awesome. I have been working 7 days a week nonstop to get this out, and I feel pretty committed to 3-1. I know I've pushed the date a couple times. If you like what we're doing, smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, consider subscribing. Thanks. Okay, did a questionnaire for your intern position about 2 months ago. Is it okay that you've still have been ghosting by recruiters? Yeah, so with the questionnaire stuff, I don't know the responsiveness rate. I don't know if they respond to everybody, 5%. I can't really tell you. I mean, I never like being ghosted, but I don't know if everybody gets that questionnaire or a limited number of people. I don't have a lot of data on that, sorry, but just keep trying. Your videos are awesome and you can't thank you enough. We have an interview on Friday for a lead account strategist in Ann Arbor. Okay, watch that video, try those practice questions. It will yield a ton of success. And if you can up your knowledge, in the ad space, you don't have to be an ads expert, but it helps for context, especially in hypothetical open-ended questions in the solution portion. Step G, words to inclusion plus increase headcount. What does Google have in place to increase minorities? Well, we want to use words to inclusion. Okay, I'm going to try and chop through this a little bit. Well, we want to always focus in on bringing inclusivity into the answers to our questions, because actually all the data supports that a diverse work environment actually leads to better revenue. There's a ton of data on this. So inclusivity is a great thing just in general. And of course, we want to build inclusivity in every single facet within all these organizations. What does Google have in place to hire a more inclusive workforce? They have teams that are just looking for people who self-identify in some underrepresented areas, right? And so they have teams that are focused in on this, and there is a ton of strategy behind it. Is it ever going to be enough? I don't know, probably not. But they are working on it, and they continue to work on it, and they're not the only ones. All these big companies have massive plans to try and work and solve on this. And I think that the biggest thing to do would be get more invested into the earlier educational system to build the core skills that are going to make it a more inclusive workforce. Really tie into the skill sets earlier on, catch people earlier. I think that's a better plan, but they definitely have a robust program for these types of things. I hope that helps. Okay, so we're going back to the account strategist. You interviewed for the same position in June of 2021, went through 6 interviews, and the headcount ended up not getting approved. Will my previous interviews be taken into account? Does this give me an advantage for the role? Do the interviewers know I previously interviewed? What level and comp package for Ann Arbor? Okay, so your past interviewers cannot see previous feedback, okay? So it can help or hurt. If you get to the HC stage and they're borderline, they'll go to that old feedback and see if you've improved. So I can't say because I can't see that feedback. But they typically don't know that you previously interviewed, typically. Now for Ann Arbor, lead account strategist, this would really depend on level. Ann Arbor's not really the best paying market, right? So if we could come in as a 5 in Ann Arbor, you're probably looking, year 1 could be pretty good into the 2s, maybe like 230, 240 in year 1, but I would say the 4-year average might be more like 215, 220. Again, it really depends on the level, whether it's usually a lead is going to be a 5 for that one. I hope that helps. We got an offer. Okay, amazing. If you want to come back and tell us more. Okay, we got 4 people who came in and told us they got an offer again. If you're here today and you're watching and you're utilizing any of the content, this has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you and your effort. And if you're watching these channels and people are touting how great all the information and their guidance is, that's not the goal here. The goal is to provide some resources, see where you individually connect. You are doing all the work. We're just here to provide some information that might be helpful to you. Congrats. Can Eng managers switch to IC roles? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So remember, that would need to be an internal dialogue, but sometimes you're an Eng and you think the manager role is the right path, and then you get into it and you're like, wow, people management is really hard. And it is. It's really, really hard. Human beings are tough to work with sometimes. So you just want to start having those conversations to say, hey, I've had a great experience as a manager, but what I've found is that my core strengths really lie on the technical side, and that's where I get all my value, engagement, and excitement. And I'd like to start maybe working on a transition plan to go back into an individual contributor role. And so when you're doing that, just be patient, set the plan with them. Maybe you can mentor the person who will replace you, and then you'll report to them. But management isn't for everybody. And if you've discovered that, get out of that management position as quickly as possible. Get back to where you find value and excitement. I hope that helps. Excuse me. Your team lead of a technical team being in contact with customers is a priority for activity. Do you think I'm fit for a TAM role in Google Brazil? Yeah. Remember, yes, because a team lead of a technical team, remember, TAMs need to be technical. They really need to be good with people skills. So it sounds like you have those two items. There's not a ton of like TAMs out there in the world. And I think like when I think about these hybrid roles, like the client facing with technical skills, your position title could have been anything, whether you're going to a customer engineer, a sales engineer, more of a TAM type of role, just as long as you have those client facing skills, the communication skills, and the technical skills, yeah, it could be a great fit. Good luck. You've got your GCP RRK interview for a CE, security and compliance role. Kindly offer advice. Yeah, so if you go right to our channel, I have a sales and customer engineering video. So if you want to search for our videos, you can go right there. We'll throw that in as a resource to the timestamps. But customer engineers, sales engineers, this is like one of my #1 client bases. Last year was probably a mix between that and Eng managers and account strategists. Those were probably kind of like my program managers. Those were probably like my big 4. And so what I see on the customer engineering side, again, is your technical skills focused on collaboration skills. Is it a coincidence that I've talked about that a lot? No, because most of what I'm working with is a technical audience that needs to have people skills as well. So I want you to really think about the technical components. You're going to have to get pretty into the weeds of the tech, but also remember your audience. Don't go so far into the tech. Get into the weeds of the tech a little bit, but then also imagine like that hybrid audience of talking to somebody who's technical and non-technical. You have 3 years of experience. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the years of experience is not going to change comp. So if you have 5 years of experience and you get hired as an L5 or 15 years of experience as an L5, they're looking at level, role, location. Level, role, location. That's all that matters. Your interview performance doesn't matter. You could barely skate by and get through the process at any company, or you could have crushed the interviews. And most of these big tech companies, they're not looking at that. They're just looking at level, role, and location. Thoughts on L3, L4 security analyst role? Yeah, analytical roles, L3, hopefully your 4-year average is in the high ones, 4-year average for a 4, 2s, like 220. Remember, 4-year average. What I mean by that, when I say a 4-year average, it's a 33, 33, 22, 12 model, and sometimes you get a sign-on, which means that year 1 can be sometimes 20, 30, 40K more. So when I just go to 4-year averages because I don't want to get skewed by year one, but could year one be up around 250? Sure. Yeah, your last CTR interview in December last year, early Jan, you followed up, learned that I was in the HCQ. Haven't heard anything since. What would be the reason and how should you deal with it? You should follow up. I would follow up right now with your recruiter and see what's going on. I have no idea what's happening. Okay, CSS networking. Okay, so pretty basic role. And by basic, what I mean by that is there's every single role, and then there are two roles that pay differently, right? Like, no, again, there's going to be a little bit of a skew in here in terms of roles, but there's kind of like non-tech, which still could be technical. You could be in an engineering role, but there's like the roles that code and then the roles that don't code. And the roles that code pay more. Now, the one other role that pays as much as the coding roles is product management. Product management is starting to get paid like a back-end, front-end, full stack suite, okay? But yeah, I think I wouldn't change my numbers based on that role. Thanks for all the great content you put out there. Is there a 15% difference for comp for H Colorado in US versus L Colorado for L5, what H and L? Can you please give a range for, I'm not sure what those things are. If you come back, I don't know what HCOL and LCOL are. So you'll have to come back and let me know. Thanks. And then you got to follow up. Can folks who get offers please share interview experience? Okay. Yeah, if you haven't signed up for our Slack channel, we're having a couple challenges with our Slack sign up since we changed platforms, and we should have that fixed today, by the way. It seems sometimes interviewers take several days to provide feedback to the recruiter. Won't they forget my exact performance in the meantime, since they're interviewing many candidates? They shouldn't, because they should take copious notes while they're interviewing you. So they shouldn't forget. But yeah, the more days removed from the interview feedback, it can be tough for you to have success the longer they wait. Now, remember, that's why creating great visuals and being very, very specific in our interview answers is so important. Because interviewers, when they go back and they write out their feedback, will remember the people who provide visuals more than the people who don't. You're told by your recruiter I would move on to HM to decide if I interview. They said panel interview and then HC or HM. They made it seem like HM is optional for this specific role. Okay, yeah, it's possible. It's possible that. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes the hiring manager isn't a part of the process. You'll just have to go back and ask your recruiter. Yeah, absolutely. So once this ends, this live will stay up on YouTube in perpetuity as long as YouTube exists. So yeah, so absolutely, once it ends, you can go back and rewatch this if you like. And we'll timestamp it. I work with my colleague Shannon. Shannon helps me get the timestamps out, and usually these videos, occasionally there's a little bit of a delay, but usually these videos are timestamped with every single question that was asked at the exact time by Friday, usually midday. Do all positions use hiring committee and team match processes? Wondering if account strategist roles use that process. Not all teams use hiring committee, but most do. Not all have team matches. I think team matches probably make up about 50% of the roles. 50% of the roles have a specific hiring manager, and they're coming in and they're saying, hey, I need a candidate for my role for this specific job. Account strategist roles, sometimes they have a team match stage, and sometimes there's a specific hiring manager because it's a very, very specific account strategist role. So it's either or for those positions. And you should know that right from the beginning. The recruiter should tell you that. Can you give any advice for interviewing for content research positions? What to expect? You want to focus in on your preparation. Yeah, so I would really, really get fixated on this research component. So with research, like what are the process and steps you take to get your research done? How do you look at data? You should also ask great clarifying questions when you get open-ended questions, because that's what a researcher would do. But when you clarify, which will be a little bit different than what you're used to, no open-ended questions. Close your questions during the research clarification point, but like, what are the steps you take in your research, whether it's surveying or collaborating with others or utilizing historical data or looking at metrics or segmentation or whatever you're going to look at, and then really bringing in that people component as well. And it's not a surprise, again, I talk a lot about the collaboration piece and then the role specific piece. If you can do both, you'll do great. How do you find the comp for TPN L5 in India? Actually, I think there's some good data. If you go to levels.fyi, there's not going to be a ton, but it's kind of in that, again, I think I would want you to focus in that kind of like 7 million range is like an anchor. You're not going to get up that high, but something like that. Absolutely. Thank you for the positivity. I appreciate it. Okay. You interviewed with a Google recruiter 2 weeks ago, but hasn't replied to my follow-up. She was supposed to meet with the hiring manager last Friday. Would there still be a chance? Not sure. I would say hold off for a second, and I would check in Friday morning of this week and just say, hey, before we head into the weekend, I'd love to know if I'm going to be moving forward. Before we head into the weekend, maybe that will poke them a little bit to say, hey, like, have some sensitivity, put yourself in my shoes. Definitely Friday morning. Hi, Jeff, any idea about the comp for an L4, L5 customer cloud engineer? Also, any guidance, best resources to study for the RRK? So if you're studying for the RRK, I'm going to say, like, let's not worry about the comp right now. Focus in on the role and then come back and let's talk about the comp later. Resources for the RRK interview, yeah, I want you to go in. We have some good cloud videos, some good sales and customer engineer video on the YouTube channel. So just search through my videos. A lot of times people come back and ask me questions on like, how should I do X? Trust me, search the channel. We got a ton of content in there. I think we're like almost at like 250 videos. Focus in on that first. Don't worry about the comp until later. If someone got interviewed by Google and rejected, are they placed on a temporary blacklist, i.e. they wouldn't be able to get another interview for 6 to 12 months? It depends. If you're trying to go and interview for the same role, then yeah, they're not going to interview you for a minimum of 6 months, usually more like 9 to 12. It's not a blacklist, but if it's the same exact role, they're not just going to give you another chance 1 week, 1 month, 3 months later. They need some time for you to learn and grow. You completed your non-tech RRK interview yesterday. Is it normal for Google for 15 years of experience to be interviewed by a 4 years of experience Googler? Today you got negative feedback. Yeah, so let's see here. Should you strongly ask to re-interview or will it burn a bridge? Okay, so I think I want you to come back. Why does the years of experience of the interviewer matter? Why does that matter? If they have 4 years of experience, they could be a much better interviewer than somebody who has 15, 20, or 25 years of experience. Why is it that you can't be interviewed by somebody with less years of experience? Now, they shouldn't be interviewing you if they're a level down. So that's something to talk about. But yeah, I don't want to get into that conversation of who's a better interviewer based on years of experience. That doesn't always matter. Are they random? How much does a busway questions go on? Are they still there in a different form? The trick questions are gone. Those actually left. The guidance came in 2013 to stop asking them. It took a couple of years to shuffle that out. But anybody who gave them and they showed up in HC, that person would get feedback to stop asking those questions. But they still ask tricky, challenging questions. And then sometimes for product managers, like the estimation questions sound like trick questions, but they're not trick questions. They're just asking you to estimate something. Okay, HCOL. All right, I'm going to try and go back to your comment here. HCOL. Okay, so thanks for all the great content. Is there a 15% differential for Concur? high cost of living versus low cost of living. No, it can be much more than that, right? So if I'm getting hired in the Bay Area and you're looking at a job that's like in Atlanta, for example, or Chicago, it might come down 25% or more because there's such a huge cost of living differential. So I can't give you the high and low cost of living because every single market is going to be different. So I think we were talking earlier about maybe you were the Boulder person. So Boulder is going to pay a little different than Seattle, than LA, than Chicago, than Boston, than DC. Each market is pretty unique. So I would just really focus in on, there's a lot of great data on levels.fyi to understand what the market is bearing. But there can be a pretty big differential in the market because the cost of living swings so much in each market. So it's not just like, hey, this is high cost of living, it pays X. This is low cost of living, it pays Y. Each market is individually examined. I hope that helps. When you say brush up on the product space for my lead account strategist role, how deep should I go? A high level understanding of search and display, but other campaign types, you don't. Yeah, I mean, I would just say whatever knowledge you can gain by doing your online research, it's just highly recommended. Sometimes you're going up against people who run their own business, which I see quite a bit of, or they run their own business, or they've worked in a role where they've used Google Ads for 3 years. It's an advantage. So I don't want you to try and learn everything the day before, but I just want you to up your knowledge a little bit, because in the solutioning, you're going to say, hey, if we're going for like a branding focus, we might focus in on X, Y, or Z. And if we're trying to drive revenue, we might focus on X and Y, but we might also bring F into the equation too. Just a little bit of an example. Okay, great question. Do all average performing Googlers get an annual base raise? Even low performers get even low performers will get a base raise. So people who do not meet expectations, that's the bottom 5%, they'll get an increase. But yeah, absolutely. If you're meeting expectations, which is about 30% of the organization, 35%, absolutely. And those annual base increases can be really good, 6, 7, 8%. You have an interview tomorrow, RRK Territory Account Manager for Google Workspace. Last minute tips. Yeah, cheat sheet. Get your go-to clarifying questions down. Get your go-to frameworks down. Give your examples, your best examples, a title and get them down. Conflict with Bob, Salesforce initiative, whatever they are, just so you don't go blank in the interview. Create that cheat sheet and then really put your time in on just working through your behavioral answers, starting to really craft and get your frameworks and everything really, really well aligned, and then shut down for a minimum of a half an hour before the interviews. Good luck. Coming from a content writing journalist background, applying for content research role, but you don't have huge amounts of experience utilizing data, how do you handle that in the interviews? Think about the times where you have had to work with data. Remember, these are data-driven roles. So anything that you can correlate into the data space, which I think if you just take the time to think about it, you probably have more data than you think. Good luck. How technical deep to go strategy and market questions when it comes to cloud during the RRK? How technical? I mean, I always want you to go technical. I want you to have a technical lean. Just make sure that you find that balance of technical and collaborative, and that you're not explaining the tech to me. You're just saying, this technology might work for X kind of client because it might help them with A, B, and C. As opposed to saying, I would use this technology because BigQuery is really good for data. It's like, yeah, of course. So really kind of focus in on why it would potentially be good for whatever space you're going into, but not defining the tech. I find that happens sometimes. Awesome, you're welcome. I'm glad it was helpful. Hi, any idea of the comp range for a business analyst in San Bruno? So L3, L4, L3, high ones is a 4-year average. L4, you're looking to get into that like 225, 230 range, 4-year average. Thanks, Jeff. Awesome. Yeah, super excited for you. I hope everything works out from a sponsorship perspective. Wish you the best of luck. Thank you. I must cut this a lot, but I want to sincerely thank you for all the work you put in the content and taking the time to do these sessions. You've changed many lives. Thank you. I mean, obviously I'm not the only person out there doing it. I hope that these lives provide value. I want to show up every week for everybody, and I hope it's helpful. I don't always have all the answers, of course. I have some answers, and then, I just want to obviously provide a little bit of my perspective. And as long as people keep enjoying these, I'll keep showing up. And thank you. If I do well in your interview on Friday, I'd like to investigate some coaching from you before your next interview. How much lead time do you need to set up coaching? Just go to a website and look at the calendar. Usually, I'm only typically booked out usually 3 or 4 or 5 days in advance. It just varies. And then remember, people come and go, like they'll drop off, people's calendars change, things are constantly changing. So just go on the website, check out my calendar. But yeah, it's obviously good to get ahead of it as quickly as possible. I think I'm right now booked up until Wednesday of next week. Awesome. Okay, let's go, and I'm going to prompt on a couple things, and then if no more questions come in, we'll come to a close, but I'm going to start the closeout process. We always seem to be at this 1.5 hour range. If you like what we've done today, please smash that like button. If you've never subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. Paid course coming out 3-1. We're going to have group coaching. We're going to have coaching packages, and we will start to, since we shut down our desktop app, we're going to start to rebuild some of those free resources into the website. And we'll do that as quickly as we can. Just so you're getting value. We have a free Slack channel with about 2,000 members. If you've never joined our Slack group, join it. We should get that right link fixed today so that you won't have any more challenges. Thank you so much and for being here today. Really appreciate it. And we'll be back next week, 10 a.m. Pacific. Thanks.